Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity powered by Empowering Sense Foundation. Today we have Dr. Saumya Mathew with us. A brief introduction of Dr. Saumya Mathew. She is one of those BTech, students which we have at this platform of Researcher Celebrities. She has done her bachelor's in technology, BTech, in biotech and biochemical engineering from MCET Kerala, then pursued master's in technology MTech in biotechnology from Karunya University. Again, not many of the people who take this path do PhD, but Dr. Saumya is one of those exceptionals who did PhD from NITC Calicut and currently is a research associate at Baylor College of Medicine, Houston, United States of America, USA. With this brief introduction, we will welcome Dr. Saumya at the platform, thanking you for taking your valuable time out to help the researchers all around the world to make clear their heads. Thank you, Dr. Saumya.
Thank you so much for inviting me for the talk and for the researcher celebrities. I'm like happy to share my experience and views which I have like got through these times. So I know that like people who like does BTech usually doesn't like end up in doing research. And so it's like
Mhm.
I would happy to share my thoughts on that. Yeah.
Yes, so let's
Thank you.
start the conversation on the note with the only question which is always common to all of our researcher celebrities, that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
Right, that is a question which I like a lot. So it's kind of, I should say that it would have like started from the school time where I have like had curiosity in knowing things. So we had like our science lab was like good. So they used to teach us out of the textbooks. So whenever we used to go to the lab, the teacher there, he used to show us things under the microscope. So random things. We used to take like random things. We used to take leaves, insects, hair follicles. Then he used to show like these cheek cells. So it's kind of like those. I think those science lab created kind of a curiosity in like our students, not just me, maybe few of us who were like studying in the school. So at that point, when you like come to your 11th and 12th, you have a pressure from your family that you have to go for like a professional course. So either engineering or a medicine, something like that. And then I was like not very interested to have like be into a medical field. I did not want to be a doctor. I did not really want to be an engineer. And I something which I choose was like I want to study biotechnology. And my kind of the choice was to go for a BSc biotechnology and then go for the masters and PhD like that. But then it's kind of like that time is like 2005 where you don't have like a lot of internet is there, but then still you don't have that provision of like surfing and like finding out things through online. But towards the end of 12th standard, one of my uncle told me that is like there's a like course called biotechnology engineering and you can go for that. So that is the time when I thought, okay, so it will make my parents happy and also me happy. So then I did my like I gave my entrance test. That was like towards the end of 12th standard, you have like very less time for to prepare. So it was like I kind of prepared in 1 or 2 months, gave the entrance test where I was not very sure of whether I could crack it or not. But I would say to all the people who was like listening or like giving exams, don't worry about like whether you get or not, just give it try. You don't know your worth. So
Yes.
and then I could like crack the entrance exam and then I could join biotechnology engineering. So then where like there that was a point where biotechnology and biochemical engineering you learn a kind of like more of engineering, less of biology. So then it was kind of like the half of the class went into chemical engineering and half of the class who was interested in biotechnology tried to focus on that. And then I was one of the kind of a person who like for the namesake of other people who was like who ask you like after engineering, did you get any placements? So at the time point, I gave placement exam. I got placed in one of the IT company. that was just to kind of like make people quiet. Okay, after pursuing engineering, I got a placement. But then, and at the backside of yours, you have that passion to have move forward into biology. Then I tried like then I could convince people around, and then I took masters. And then at that point, when I was doing this 1 6 months of your like project work, that is the time point where I like really decided, okay, I want to be in research. So I did my research in sugarcane research industry in Coimbatore. So at that time point, I worked with like I worked for microbiology, entomology. So it was like a wide area of research. But then I could see people who was like working with like kind of like limited resources. It's kind of like a rural area, but then there are people who are like really passionate about research. So at that time point, I really thought of, okay, I have to stay, even though it's like engineering, you have like your MTech, it's better to stay in research and I want to be there. So that is like, then I could, again, it's the same thing. I was not very sure at that time point, but then towards the end of your masters, again, you have that thing in your mind that you want to stay in research. So again, it's kind of like, it was a trial to give the GATE exam, not sure whether you crack it or not, but give it a try, got the GATE exams clear. So that is the time point when I thought that instead of like looking for any like small labs, why don't you try for like the best ones? So with the GATE score, I tried for all the like I applied for all the places which I could apply with a GATE score. The IITs, ISERs, NITs, IAC, whichever place I thought like the best, I gave the try. So that's, and then I could join NIT Calicut. So there it was like you have, so then it's like I knew that it was like research which I want, but then still the area of interest I was not very clear. But then I should tell all the people that just give a try for whatever it is, you might be able to figure out your way. So that's the kind of like the introduction how I end up in research. So yeah, that's it.
What I can say to everyone here, based on what we hear till now, is like the trial and error method is the thing which have paid Dr. Soumya a very high time, that whatever she tried, without even having 100% clarity, have done all the things which you wanted to. And so this is something which you also told everyone that they should try. And keeping the standards always high, because then you never know. And one of the things which have been observed in Indian students specifically is like they don't know their worth, which you clearly mentioned that you probably don't know what you know already until you appear for something which you are not even 100% sure. So to start with this, I would like to ask the first question, that after your bachelor's, you were almost like having a placement in hand, you already made up your mind that you will do the MTech. And then after the MTech, you already chose that, because you also know, and what we have seen in India for most of the BTech and MTech students, that they just join an industry, or even for academia they go other routes, but not many of them goes to the PhD. But when you decided that you want to do PhD because you have tasted the research, core research, as you said, with sugarcane entomology and microbiology, what were the things which were, the most concerning points for you before joining a lab for a PhD?
Okay, so that is like really a good question. So one thing which I was like looking was, so basically everyone looks at the thing about the university, like where you're going to learn. But then the other important thing is like how the lab is. That is like really very important. Even though your lab doesn't have like good infrastructure, but if your lab environment is good and your PhD mentor, you get a good support from a PhD mentor. That is like something which is very important, because you spend almost like around minimum 4 5 or like 6 years in a lab where you're going to build up your career. Like you are literally going to in a phase, a time frame which is like not small, it's like really big enough, which exactly mold your path forward. So to have a good environment, so you're like out from your family, you're within the lab like 24 hours, you're in the lab with the people around. So you should have like a good work environment. So I should say that I was the first student for my PhD guide. We did not like have anything. It was like me and my guide, we just like made our lab from scratch. So she was like so supportive. So, and then even though we had like many setbacks, we could like build up our lab. And now she like, her lab is one of the best in IT Calicut. And she has like around 10 PhD students and then project associates. And then the lab is doing well and good. So I have seen the lab from the like from the scratch. We did not even have a like a PCM machine, like nothing. We had like very limited resources, but the support you had like was like very great. And I could kind of like talk to other people, talk to people in the lab, get their support, get their collaboration. And even if I had to go outside and then learn things, I was like given that support. So that is like something which is very important, even though it might not be like a big place where you join, but then the lab environment is like really great. So yeah, I should say that you before you choose a lab, you should actually kind of like try to interact with the people in the lab, at least like see their work. One thing you can see, look us like just see their publication to see that how well the lab is working. And then maybe you can like try contacting people in the lab and see how the lab works and how the things work out in the lab and get an idea of like how the lab is. So I would say that.
Nice. So now I will ask this same question in a different way. You mentioned that you were the first PhD student of your guide.
Yes.
So now if the PhD aspirant student is going and contacting the PIs and they encounter the lab with their research interest, the PI is the first, they could be the first student of theirs. So now how they should approach towards this, because the PI is the only one in the lab. So they cannot have any information about the lab environment. They can have a little bit of infrastructural overview, but again, if someone is just starting their lab, so it will transform in at least 1, 2, 3, 4 years. But on first year, if a student is approaching, then now how should they interact or, approach towards selecting that PI for their prospective advisorship?
Right. So the best way when you don't have anyone else to interact with, you can talk to the PIs itself, because mostly young PIs, they are like very open for conversations. So that's what I had like seen, because I was like given support to give my opinion. So we had like literally, if I say that I joined the lab with a topic of interest, but then we had conversation, multiple conversation, the possibility of like doing that and the possibility what all hindrances we would face. And then in kind of like a month of discussion, so we had like I joined the lab, then we had like multiple discussions over a month. I changed my PhD topic. We could kind of like see what is the possibilities, what is the hindrances. So you should be kind of open in discussion. So it's like, and mostly the new PIs, they would be like happy to have discussions. So you can just like figure out things. So that's what I would say. We started with one topic and then seeing the possibilities and the drawbacks, the setbacks, or like the advances in the topic we are choosing. We had moved from one topic to another. So that is also something which is possible. When it is a new lab, you can kind of like mold yourself, you can give your inputs, take other people's input, have discussions, like read through, and it will help you out a lot. And that will at another stage will help you when you start to have like a career as an independent researcher. All these process which you had gone through during the start of your lab, it will help you out that time. So I used to be involved in like budgeting, I used to be involved in how to contact vendors, making comparative statement. I used to ask my guide like, why should I do this? She used to say, everything which you do right now, it might be helpful at another time point. And it was true. Yeah.
So this is something which we always talk about at this platform, that the formal training for research is given during the entire PhD time. But when it
Exactly.
comes to getting the formal training for, budgeting and then making the budgets and then expenses, the selection of instruments, one over the other, cost benefit analysis, this is something which not many of the PhD student at the least are not heavily involved in. Or if there is a program manager, so then they are not even, they only tell their requirements, what they need, and then they get everything without knowing all the nitty-gritty of the entire process. And as you mentioned, that it is very important when you apparently become an independent PI, this is the process which you have walked through. So it is easy to go over, and now you are in charge of that. So now this brings us to the second point of the second phase of PhD. So now joined the lab, area of interest, what you want. Now you mentioned that you have changed your topic within a month. After that, how was the journey of the PhD? And what you share that based on your experience, how the when the problem comes, how any PhD student should look towards them and overcome all those hurdles.
Right. So it's one thing, it's like you have to check for all the possibilities. Even though if you're not able to do a particular work in your lab, you have to see where is like which all other collaborations you are able to make, or like what is the possibility where you whether either you can go for the two options, either you can go for a collaboration, work in the lab and get the results. Otherwise you have the possibility of outsourcing things. So what is the possibility of outsourcing, and you have a fund support to do that. So all these things counts, so you have to literally figure out your way. It's when you do your PhD, it's literally it's not like about doing something. It's mostly the skill. You will kind of develop your skill how to troubleshoot your things and come to a point where what exactly you want. So you might get a different results, but then you should be kind of always ready for troubleshooting things. You will have n number of problems every day. And being a researcher, that is kind of like something which excites you at the same time, which is like it's kind of it makes a dual role. It's sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. When you talk to other people who works in IT field, they say like their life is boring. But for us, research is life is never boring. But because you come across different things different day. Today is not what you see like tomorrow is a different thing. So you have like different things. You should be open for all the troubleshooting things. So that I should say that. So and then you'll figure your way out.
So
Yeah.
now let's talk about, you just touched a very important and sensitive topic about stress and boring. So the IT people often say that life is boring, same things over and over. Researchers have their different view of it. So all the field experiment is brings the stress, but all the positive experiments brings the excitement. So how you have experienced stress versus excitement in your PhD and your post PhD research?
Yes. So it's like you will have failures. So that is like something which my mentor used to say. You will have failures. You might get a negative results. You might think it is like not very relevant to your topic. Sometimes these negative results can be a result. So it can you can just like put your saying that these experiments were done, but then we did not get the expected result. This can be like another hypothesis which would lead to something new or like something different. So and then it's always like have that mental support. And also when you say about stress, I had like 5 years of my PhD, and it's like even I could like speak to my mentor about anything in the world, not like things outside research, about family, about like your hobbies, like whatever it comes. We were like having that kind of bond where we could talk about anything under the sun. So, and then she was like so supportive. I got married during my PhD. I had my kid during my PhD. And then I did my, like, I graduated after I had my kid. So it's kind of like she was also supportive. So it was there. We had like all the PhD students in our lab. We literally had a work-life balance. Even though it's like PhD and then things like that, we had that balance where we could like kind of take care of our family also. And that is also something maybe as like when we become independent researchers, when we have students, we should give that kind of like support to our PhD students to have that work life balance, because maybe they might not be knowing how to manage between things, but you should be a good mentor, or like you should be a good PI, so that you kind of like tell them, okay, this is not your life. You should have like a little things out. So you should have things outside the lab. You should have like some hobbies. Should have like some time to support your family. So it's kind of a give and take. The mentor also should be like able to understand the students, the stress level they have, and they also should be able to kind of communicate. It's kind of like sometimes you not be able to communicate with your mentor. Should be having that kind of like communication at least towards your colleagues, so that you can just ease out and then figure things out. Yeah.
Yeah. So now this brings us to two very intertwined topics when we talk about the work-life balance and the mental health. Based on what you have experienced, and now you have also seen people, especially in India, that now PhD students, after spending 3 to 4 years, they still drop out. And then, in very sad circumstances, there are suicides also committed by the PhD students. So, to a student who's going through a very rough phase and listening to your conversation at now, so what will you suggest to them?
So yeah, that is like something. It I know that like all labs might not be like the same. You'll have like different experience, but then you should be like kind of able to reach out to people. At least like some people, there should be someone who you can kind of like talk to. And then most of the institutes now, they have this kind of like support from the institute, that you can like have activities, or like you have that kind of a social circle, or like you have like kind of psychiatrist support from the institute. Then like many institutes are trying to implement those. It might not have been there like few years back, but then now there are things like that. Institutes try to have like some kind of like activities, or like kind of psychiatric supports. So you should kind of like try to reach out. People might not be able to figure out what you are like really going through. You at some point, it's like sometimes it's kind of your duty just to tell people you're not all right. So if you like kind of like feel that your like work you do is like more stressful, just speak out. I am trying this, but I'm not able to do it. Just tell your concern. It might help. Yeah,
So now, this is something which we always talk about, that be more vocal. If you are going
exactly.
through stress, talk to your people. You should, everyone, as because before researchers, we all are human beings. We have our own support systems well in place. It can be your friends, your family, your peers, or in some cases, even the PI. We have seen the success stories from various researchers at the same platform, where even if there are things which they cannot talk at home, because being women, if they will say or share the problems in their professional life, the first thing family will say that, okay, we always said that you should not do PhD, just get married. And because of the support of the PI, they were able to overcome all those hurdles and then succeeded in their path. So this brings us to the next point, Soumya, that now in India and all over the world also, people are talking about women in STEM. That have you ever experienced any challenge anywhere? And now you are in United States, the different work culture. What are your thoughts about that? Do we need to talk about women in STEM? And if yes, then how that can be addressed in India?
Okay. So as a woman in STEM, so many people, if you like really say like look into, is like there are like when you take to for like your bachelor's, there'll be like, if you really see in science, the majority students you have is girls. It's less number of boys if you goes to bachelor's. But then when it comes to masters, that the percentage of women become less, the guys increase. It's like at one point they might, it might be like maybe they get married at that, at a later stage maybe they have kids, and at time points you see that like people just drop out from the research, like their career path. Women, they have like big ambitions, but at some time point it kind of like makes to take some choices where they have to kind of like give importance to family, and then they are not able to manage this. So I should kind of like say that it is kind of response, it should be a collective responsibility,
Yes.
not just to like put all the like responsibilities on one person. The family should be able to collective take responsibilities, so that both the parents, like the woman and the man, would be able to work, support, and then achieve things. So right now, I should say that I did my PhD, then I did my, like I had my kid when I had my like when I completed my PhD. And then for same as you said, like I took a kind of like a thought of a break, so that I could like take care of my kid, because he was only 6 months of age when I just like finished my PhD. So then I thought of like having a break, but then being like in science, I was not able to kind of like take that pressure sitting at home. So I always wanted to be back in science. So then I thought of like working. I tried for jobs, kind of like in companies. I tried for like postdoc positions. Then in my mind, in my back of my mind, always I wanted to be in research, I want to be postdoc. But then I did not like want to just have like a path shut. I was open to everything. I was applying for teaching jobs, I was applying for industry jobs, I was parallelly applying for like postdoc jobs. So meanwhile I got a like a industry job. I think I worked only there for like hardly 3 or 4 months, but then I got to get position in NCBS as a postdoc in the lab. So there I should say that I could get a support from my husband, from my family, from my parents, from my in-laws. They used to like stay with me, come and help with me with my taking care of my kid. So I should say that if your family kind of like gives a moral support, it need not to be like a complete support that you they take all the responsibility from you. No, that no, we don't need like actually that. We need a kind of moral support that if in case required, some they will be there to help you out. So I should say that after PhD, right now I'm in US. I moved to US without my family. My like husband and my in-laws, they are taking care of my kid. So now he's 8 years of age. So they are taking care. Otherwise, I would not have been here. I would have like never had an opportunity to come US, like leaving behind my family there. So that is like something very important. Your family also need to support. Being ambitious is like something which is great. You might have like big ambitions, but then if you have like a little support from your family also, you will do wonders. I should say that.
Have already been at the forefront, because Empowering Science Foundation itself in the integral value believes in breaking the barriers. And one of the barrier is this, that whenever a male goes to any kind of job, be it in research, nobody talks about that, hey, what is happening to the kid? But whenever it's about a mother, then the question comes that, because kid is the responsibility of, as you said, it is a collective support which is required when we talk about women in STEM. Either it is from the in-laws, from the family, from the kids also, because they are also investing their time in your research, be it any
Right.
research. And what we have been seen in, where the parents, both the parents are in research, kids are so much interested in their research, because that is the thing which they hear all the time. Sometimes whenever possible they do visit the labs, and we have seen the stories like Professor Swaminathan and then now Dr. Saumya Swaminathan, that how if one of the parent is hardcore into research, they take the next generation also included in this. So now we will talk about the challenges you have faced in your entire research time, moving from India to United States in terms of science and in terms of cultural shock, because this is something which is now becoming more and more frequent, that the once the student is done with their PhD and awarded the degree, they try to go out of India and look for postdoc opportunities without realizing that how tough it will be, because every individual is so different that one person, and we have seen researcher celebrities at our same platform talking that how they were excited when they got an offer from United States. They moved there, and then within couple of months they were back in India because they were unable to handle that the loneliness which they faced there.
Right. So one thing I should say that like I just moved to US only like 2 months back. So I joined Baylor in January. So one thing I should say that it's not like very much mandatory that you have to go to abroad and do your research. But then another thing which I should say that while like doing your PhD or like after that doing a postdoc, at one time point you kind of like have to figure out what exactly you want to do after like some years of time. So you should kind of like set a goal of like after 10 years, what I want to be. So it's kind of like I should say I figured out my way of interest, like my area of interest when I was doing my postdoc. So I was in during my PhD, I was working with biochemical analysis. Like I had like my work was based on clinical science. It was like I was working on diabetic foot ulcer. And once I joined my postdoc, I started working with animal models, and then my interest was like my work was to generate these animal models. So that was the time point when I realized that this is the kind of work I want to do. So basically animal work and then the genetic engineering to make mouse models. And then I started working with that. And from that point, that was kind of my goal. I did not have any idea of like come to US at that point of time. But then I had like figured out, okay, this making animal models and being in that kind of research is like something which is making me happy. I do not want to be a independent researcher, like a PI, mentoring students. But then I want to be kind of like a genetic engineer, which will be able to make things so that other people who is doing research can utilize those to figure out their questions. So then, due to that, keeping that as the point, I then tried to kind of like having a short-term goal. So I went for the Cold Spring Harbor course. So that's the time point where I learned things. I came back. So that was like the first time when I came to US. I came to US for that particular reason. I wanted to learn this. I went to US, learned, and came back. And then I was working in NCBS for this in the facility. So I was having my postdoc research plus the facility jobs at the same time, where I was like developing the mouse models. So in the genome engineering facility. And then I moved to IASC, and then they're like keeping this like to make these animal models in the long term goal. Again, I came to US. The motto is to learn things. I might stay here for long, I might not stay here for a long time. But then your long term goal is to have like a facility there in India where you can make mouse models without help of any other foreign institutes. Now people like either import animals from like JAX or like then get help from other foreign institute to make the mouse models. But then that is like something which I want to do back in India after like some time. So that's the reason why I came here. So I would say that you have like loneliness because you are away from your family. Then you have kind of a goal which you have set in mind, and then you can kind of have to focus on that. And then if you just like take the opportunity to come to US just for namesake, as a postdoc without any goal, it might not like work out very well, because there are like problems with like you not have like friends here, the hangout, you will not be able to hang out, and then there are things like that. So if I would say, if you have a clear motto, and then if you are able to achieve those things back in India itself, it's possible. It's not that like it's not possible at all. But then if you think that like really coming abroad will help you out in enhancing your career, and then if it will really help you out, you should come out for that. But and sometime I had seen people after doing their PhD here in abroad universities, or even a postdoc, then they are into the back to the square one, where they don't know like what to do after that. Because after you're completing your PhD, you're not getting a job, or like you're not able to figure out, like you're not able to have your career forward. Then they do one postdoc. After postdoc, again, you don't know what to do next. You do a second postdoc, your third postdoc. So I should say that like kind of like set a goal and try for that goal. Then you will be able to make things out there. Yeah.
Having a clear motto is the first thing. If you are clear in your head that what you really want, you have your short-term goals and long-term goals well in place, then probably Dr. Saumya's advice and suggestion will change so many researchers now thinking and approaching, or even trying to apply for postdocs all over the world, because India produce so many PhDs, and which most of them goes outside India. One thing which we should appreciate, that Dr. Soumya also mentioned, that it is not necessary that you have to move out of India. You might be able to fulfill your research quest, your accomplishments, and your own niche you can create without going anywhere. So everyone has their own priorities. Again, it is up to the person to do all the SWOT analysis to see that what they really want out of their life. Because at the end of the day, research is something which makes you happy, and that is a little bit different when you go out of India or within India in different places, which is not surprising, because every institute have their own infrastructure, their PIs, the pool of the PIs is also so much different in there. So Soumya, now talking about all the struggles in there, what is the biggest accomplishment which you have felt during your research career?
Okay. So the thing is that so you kind of like become a better person. The people who are like, sometimes what you can see is like, if you have like kind of a good environment, you are able to kind of even though your research, if you it might be like something contradictory. You might not be having like very good impact paper, like impact publications. Sometimes you might have like research going on, but then you don't like have like something you can show it as like my greatest achievement. But
Mhm.
then you meet different people, you interact with people, you have like networking. When you have like something, some doubts, you are able to clarify things and then figure things out. That I would say that is a greatest achievement. I had interacted with people in NCBS. It's like a great pool of scientists there, and then I have interacted with people in IISc. That is also like really great. And then since I could like come for a course for the Cold Spring Harbor, I could see like some interact with some Nobel laureates. So it's kind of like, I would say, when you're in research, try to interact with people, and they would like give you good insights which you have like never thought of doing. So that is like something I should say that great achievement. So interacting with people, having network, and then things like that along with your research.
Absolutely. And this is Dr. T. Alec always says that PhD transforms you for your life. And it is just not a degree, it's a training for the rest of your life. And as you mentioned, that talking is one of so much important things. And this, okay, so the last question for the conversation will be researchers as communicators. What have you felt, and then how will you guide the next generation?
Yes. that is like something which is very important. The research labs in India, you never used to had some that kind of thing, but then research communication in research is like very important. You have to make the people understand, like you do something great, they might are like, what are you doing every day in the lab? You should be able to explain to the common people that you are the people who like make things like easy for them. And then that is also something which is very important. When you say that like being in science, just research is not just the end of the thing. You can be a science communicator, you can be like into illustrations, like science illustrations, the writing about the science. You can just like have like you can write as like as some science communicators, you can just like write about like what labs does. And being a researcher, you can just like give a glimpse of your lab to the common people and say that like, okay, we are doing this. So people get aware of like what is happening around them. So that is like also something which is very important with people being in science. They should not they think that research is the only career option for them. So they can be communicators. So that is like something. And India Bioscience, they does a lot of things. So I came to know about all these things when I was in NCBS, because I have seen this India Bioscience, what they does for the science communication. So that is also kind of like a career opportunity who is in science, who is kind of like interest in writing. If they have interest in art, in drawing, they should like explore those possibilities also. I should say that. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Soumya. With this, we'll say to all of our audience that if they want more directions, guidance from Dr. Soumya, they can write it to her. And if you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, feel free to write it to us. We are here to help you. The only thing which we want from your side is the questions. And all of our researcher celebrities are there to help you. And with this, we'll say thank you, Dr. Soumya, for sharing the journey and motivating the next generation of researchers. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for this. This is a good interaction indeed. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. And for all the audience, stay tuned for another researcher celebrity episode. Till then, bye.